In this video, I'm expanding on another video I did with women's mode of ignorance and understanding false ego. As you can go look at that video and check out what I'm talking about. I'm going to talk more, get the spiritual stuff out of the way before jumping into the MGTOW and relationship aspect, because this information is spiritually based. So, I spoke about the false ego in that video, and I mentioned that it's an interpretation of our sense of what we sense using our five senses, of the mode of nature. All right, the mode of material nature, which is the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. So, because false ego is a corrupt interpretation of what we sense in the modes of nature, a lot of times we run into a lot of issues with relationships and things like that. So, getting the spiritual stuff out of the way, Western philosophy or religion talks about the Holy Trinity: God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. Well, in Eastern philosophy, you have three gods. Well, one God, but three in, interpretations of those gods, for lack of a better phrase. You have Vishnu, then you have and then you have Brahma, and then you have Shiva. In Eastern philosophy, they go a little bit further and describe that Vishnu is the master of the mode of goodness. Brahma is a master of the mode of passion, and of course, Shiva is the master of the mode of ignorance. Now, we might describe those modes through our corrupt false ego, using our senses as good or bad, but it's neither good or bad, it just is. And that's how we have to approach these things. So, just like how you have the Holy Trinity in Western philosophies, you have what seems to be a Holy Trinity in Eastern philosophy. But this is where things go a little further with the philosophy. You have Krishna, who is the supreme being. He's God. He takes a portion of himself, which is Vishnu, and a partial part of his consciousness, that's Vishnu. Vishnu creates or grows Brahma out of his navel, and then Brahma births Shiva from his rage that comes out of his forehead. At least that's how the story goes. So you have an order of power within the different modes, in my opinion. And I might be wrong because I'm not an expert in all this stuff. This is just how I'm interpreting it. You can take the information and go do your own research and interpret it your way. At least it'll get you pointed in the right direction. So if you stick to Eastern philosophy, because it goes a little further than Western philosophy when it comes to that sort of thing, you would find you can say that goodness is better than passion, and passion is better than ignorance. But they all seem to be on almost equal playing field, because of one begot the other, and the other begot the other. That's how it works. But Krishna, above living and existing and have his activities outside of the modes of material nature, which is plausible in my opinion. Now, in MGTOW, we are men going our own way. We've either had bad relationships, or we became somewhat enlightened to the way women are, and before falling into that entanglement, we wise up and decide, better to stay away from all that. In some cases, we tend to realize that we are a complete human being. We are complete by ourselves. We don't need a second person to be complete. And I did another video on that, so you can check that out. So, because we live in the material nature, we tend to have a corrupt sense of it, using false ego. So, understanding that, because all right, let me put it this way. If you observe the teachings of the three deities, Vishnu, the examples that's talked about of how Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva live their life. That's taught by the gurus and the yogis and those type people for centuries. You would you would not get any sense of corruption from studying how these beings live. And we can easily say, well, that's beyond our capabilities as human beings, but it seems as though because they exist in the material modes of nature the same as us, they are just significantly more advanced, setting the examples for us. We can apply a lot of that stuff to our relationships and our mindset when it comes to MGTOW. So, as I mentioned in one of the videos, I talk about, in the mode of ignorance, because we're using false ego, a lot of times we rely on the body only. We kind of talk about, with the Instagram pictures and all that stuff, and women posting a whole lot of seductive stuff, because that's a mode of ignorance. But the mode of ignorance is driven by passion. And passion is a driving force for work to get done in the material world. So you're a man working on a relationship, but a lot of times, if you look at the other video, if you're looking to get something out of the relationship rather than what you're focusing on, what you're putting in, that's where we get a lot of, we run into problems and relationships fall apart, leaving us feeling empty because we're not aware that we are a complete human beings. We are a complete life and don't need a woman to be happy or to be happy or complete. We're already complete, and we have to exude that joy and stuff from within. If we are drawing joy from someone else, we're really not happy, and that's a corruption of the modes, the material modes of nature. So, if you look at Christian, at the Eastern deities, where they talk about even Lord Shiva, even if you look at that and he's in the mode of ignorance, he's a master of the mode of ignorance. Ignorant really isn't a bad word. It doesn't mean being retarded. It just means you don't know. All right, and exploring that allows you to explore the vastness of the universe, that all the secrets that it has to offer, when you can embrace the fact that you don't know. That's the mode of ignorance. As far as the mode of passion goes, in a relationship, right? Just as in ignorance, you don't really know the future of a relationship, but you just put in the work and just do the work as is without looking for something in return. That is exercising the mode of goodness, but you need passion to exercise that stuff, to keep practicing it and doing it. All right, as a process and not as an end result. That's where a lot of people, I think, gets caught up when looking at the spiritual stuff, and you can skew the mode of ignorance as something that's bad across all aspects of it. But if you read on how Shiva lives his life, in either the Puranas or the Srimad Bhagavatam or some of the other spiritual texts, his level of spirituality is beyond, and it's almost perfect in my opinion. And he is a master of the mode of ignorance. So is ignorance really that bad? I don't think so. It's how we as humans, how we as men apply that to our lives or to relationships that create a lot of the stuff. Because of false ego, we get hurt. Our feelings get hurt because we're using our senses, in a corrupt way when it comes to relationship. And a lot of times it's hard for us to move on as men, or to forgive. And that's why we see a lot of men falling in the MGTOW trap of going their own way in a negative way, in a way that's not beneficial to them as a human being overall. Yes, you get an instant benefit that you're free, you're not tied to women and all that stuff. That's great. But a lot of y'all want to be in relationships, want to have kids, want to marry and stuff like that. So the hypocrisy of that is that how do you cope or deal with that stuff if you want to go that way? Because you can't pretend to be MGTOW if you're not happy within yourself, if you don't realize that you are complete by yourself. And if you get into a relationship, you can still be MGTOW because you are complete by yourself. And a woman or relationship is an opportunity for you to share that joy and that compassion and all the stuff that we consider good with that person. And it's more an inclusive thing. You're including this person in your joy and happiness and all that stuff. And a lot of times, if that person's come with a level of misery that she thinks that she has to draw this stuff from you for her to be happy, it wouldn't last, because when she gets a fill, she will move on. That's where you get hypergamy and all this other stuff comes along. It's a corrupt sense of it's a corrupt interpretation of the five senses. So hopefully this video helps. Like, subscribe, share the video. If you think it will help somebody, hit the notification bell. I hear it does something. And I will leave with these last few words. Again, you got the Holy Trinity in the west, you got the three deities in the east, with Krishna above them, practicing, doing his thing outside of the material modes. And then you got us, who are trying to navigate through relationships, but for the most part trapped using a false ego based on a corrupt interpretation of the senses. And a lot of times that can also be taught to us, so we look at things from that perspective rather than how things really are. So if you decide to stay in MGTOW, to do the MGTOW way and just go your own way without bothering with relationships and stuff, that is great, as long as you understand you're fully complete. You're fully complete as a human being. You don't need the extra stuff. And you look at things as you are. You look at yourself as you are, right? Without a whole lot of judgment and interpretation. And if you decide to go into a relationship later on, or you look at you accept it as it is, and you be inclusive, because the three modes, the masters of the three modes of material nature, are inclusive in everything that they do based on my readings, and we can exhibit things like that with great results. Again, it's just ideas I'm putting out there. You can take it or you can reject it. It's all up to you. Y'all have a good day.